Riftstrider. Riftstrider, you get caught up in the Riftstrider. What's up, everyone? Welcome to DevDive, a conversational podcast where we interview indie developers. It's a lot of fun. I'm Steve Fontana, and with me, as always, he's Andy Asimakis. How you doing, buddy?
If the watch time dips like 5 seconds into the video, I'm gonna blame that thing that just happened.
Nah, it's all good.
Or
It's
it
all
explains why it's like in an 80% watch time.
It can only go up from here, Andy.
Yeah, they came for the song, stuck for the conversation.
Yeah, if you start with the bar so low, it could really only get better. You understand? So you get it.
That's good. It's really good.
Indeed. This is DevDive, a conversational podcast where we dive deep into the world of indie games development and uncover the stories behind the games that we love. On this week's dive, we would love to welcome Andrew Allen, developer of Riftstrider, a unique deck-building roguelite adventure. What's going on, Andrew? How are you?
I'm great. How are you guys?
You are shell-shocked is what you are.
Mm-hmm.
coming into
just in awe.
Just this buzzsaw of energy that is Indie Rift and of course DevDive. Andy, do you want to tell the story about how we came across this game?
Oh shit, yeah. So I was browsing the old inbox one day, and Andrew sent us an email on our info@indierift.com email address that he was watching our Peglin interview, and he was like, this is kind of neat. I'm also an indie dev. I dabble in the indie games, and here's my game. If you guys want to check it out, go for it. And I was like, we'll check it out, but you can also come on the show. And after like 5 cancellations, we're here.
Yeah, we did it.
That's the whole story.
And we're Indie Rift. This is Riftstrider, so I think it was just a match made in heaven.
Yeah, I think it was meant to be.
Yeah, it was meant to be.
When you really boil it down, this is going to be like, this is our podcast mascot is this game.
Indeed.
I mean, listen, it's a deck builder. That's you. You love the card.
I love me some deck builders.
Matt and I are all about roguelites and roguelikes.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
It does fit.
It does. Yeah. So I guess we kind of touched on what Riftstrider is, but it's better to hear it from the horse's mouth, as the kids say. And by kids, I mean grandpas and grandmas. Andrew, what is Riftstrider?
So, like you said, it's a deck building roguelite, but the unique twist of it is that there's sort of this like spatial grid element to it. So rather than being able to play cards out of your hand, you're sort of presented with this 2D array of different elements, and you can kind of drag between them to create a different magnitude of effect. Yeah,
it's kind of like a you're matching these gems to kind of make your attacks or your defense or whatever you're casting a little bit more powerful or do certain things. You could chain them together to kind of make interesting attacks and whatnot. But that's not just what these cards do, because there are other types of cards too. It's not just you unlock a card that unlocks a specific new gem or orb for you to break. But there is also other stuff like spells and whatnot. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So there's sort of the concept of, I guess, incantations is how I have it set up in the game, where after you accrue enough currency in the game, you can go and unlock other stuff, which is kind of a part I like about games is kind of having a reason to go back and replay them and unlock other cool powers and think in different ways as you're playing through it. So the 2 ones I have in there now are sort of like shapes where if you draw a 4 across line, that adds extra attack. And if you draw a 2x2 shield or 2x2 square, that creates that extra shield. So it just sort of gives you an extra layer of sort of thinking about the game as you're playing through it. It's like, there's these 4 obstacles, but instead of just thinking about those as obstacles, I can think about that as like an extra attack or an extra defense.
Yeah, and you're constantly, I'm sorry, Andy, but you're also constantly looking at the board and juggling what your next move is going to be, because there are gray orbs on there that are basically like, a dead turn, but you can get rid of specific ones to hope that as the other orbs are going to drop together and give you a better move on your next move, you know, kind of thing. So there's a little bit of a puzzle element to this thing as well.
Yeah, it's definitely a bit of a puzzle element. That was some feedback I got early on. Was I think I just had, you know, it was like you take one turn, the enemy takes one turn, but players felt like that turn, if you had to connect obstacles, was like a totally wasted turn. So that's when I introduced the like action point concepts, where you know you take 2 turns, and so if you want to take one turn to kind of clear some obstacles and like set yourself up for a better move, you don't have to wait for the payoff for another turn. You can sort of take that immediately.
Now, does any of what you just said explain why Steven sucks so much ass at this game?
I think it's probably
that's what I'm
probably
wondering.
just the tuning. Yeah.
Well,
but
I think there. I mean, if you're, you know, you do have a demo out, so anything that any experience I have is from the demo. Like one of the things that I noticed happens, or I couldn't understand what was happening, was exactly when and what the enemies can do, because they don't have a grid, right? Like they don't have something that I could see them drawing from or try to prevent. It would be kind of like, I have no shield now, so this is the turn where I'm going to try and get some shield up there. You know, that was really what I was struggling with the most. What has feedback been like for your basic gameplay loop and understanding the balance between, you know, what you're seeing versus what you're not seeing?
Yeah, so this has been, I think I've been maybe like 8 months into development so far. It's been very much like a sort of side project, hobby project, nights and weekends kind of thing. So I got some early feedback on from kind of close friends, and you know, made a lot of changes based on that feedback. And then, you know, just sort of recently I've started putting it in front of more people and kind of collecting feedback, and that's been really helpful to see. So this is kind of the first, you know, pass at sort of getting wider eyeballs on the game, I guess.
Yeah.
Where did this come from? The entire concept, and what made you settle on the deck building roguelite of all things for this game?
So, you know, I guess I always enjoyed games like Slay the Spire, and you know, just sort of like had that in, you know, the back pocket. Is like, oh yeah, it's a game I really enjoyed playing. I sort of always wanted to make a game, you know, did some like you know, game design classes in my computer science degree, but ultimately went into like startups and software development. But I've been sort of missing like a bit of that creative, you know, just like sort of a creative outlet to like build something and like talk about dragons and monsters and like have people take you seriously. So, you know, I've been kind of like itching for something to work on. One, like, I guess the way it came about was I sort of, I don't know about you guys, but I feel like my attention span these days has been like garbage, right? It's like, you know,
yeah, we can relate to that.
Apps and everything are just like destroying like any sort of like semblance of attention span that I used to have. So I grew up like enjoying reading books, but I feel like I couldn't get like through a book. So I was trying to listen to audiobooks and I'd still get distracted. So what I found was the sort of like brain hack of like listening to an audiobook and playing kind of like a casual visual puzzle game that didn't distract my like, you know, language processing. So I went down a rabbit hole of, you know, playing through a bunch of sort of like casual puzzle visual games. And you know, after a while, I was kind of like, oh, these games are fun. There's like fun mechanics, but they're kind of missing a broader like framework or story, or, you know, something like some reason to keep playing it. It's like, okay, so I'm connecting these dots. That's cool. You know, I get to the next level, but like, what else could that be? Like, how could I mix that into something else? And that's kind of where that idea came from.
And are you just doing this on your own? Like, is this just your project, or do you have like other people helping out?
This is just my project. I've just in the past few months started working with an artist.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, I feel like that's kind of always been my weak point. And whenever I've tried to like work on something, is I'm like, I can do all the development, but just like not great at visually like putting together things, or obviously art. So working with this artist, Jay, has been great because he sort of like filled in the gaps that I lacked in that sense.
Is the goal to get this out before Slay the Spire 2 comes out? Because that's gonna eat up any free time you're gonna
That's
have.
true.
I believe that's like a bit of a beat the clock scenario for you, Andrew.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I hadn't thought about that. I will admit, I feel like Balatro stole like 3
Oh, good
weeks of development
lord.
time. So,
Don't. Where did
but
that game
yeah,
even come from? Holy shit.
I don't know. Yeah. Well, I kept having friends telling me, "Oh, you got to play this game. You got to play this game. You'll like, find some inspiration from it." And I was like, I don't really like poker that much. And then I finally sat down and played it. And I was like, oh no, this is great.
There is a spider about the size of a silver dollar crawling on my window shade right now. And I am going to be severely.
You're fine. It's harmless.
Severely distracted. No, Andy. I'm gonna show you and not the other camera. Can you see that fucking thing?
Oh, I see it. That's harmless.
That
Steve.
is gigantic, bro.
It's totally fine. That's kind of massive.
It's
you guys.
huge, and it crawled out of the like the little slot in the window where the air conditioner is in. So now I'm hyper focused because I don't want to lose.
What were we saying about like
I don't want to lose
short attention
ADHD.
spans
Yeah,
and
ADHD. There it is.
Like, ooh, spider.
It's Rift Spider. There it is.
I'll
Yeah,
have to make
so
an enemy
I'm
based
gonna
on the
be.
spider.
I mean, it knows I'm looking at it for sure because it
can
hasn't
sense the
moved.
fear, Stephen.
Yeah, it's not fear. It's I don't want to lose sight of it because I want to get rid of it. I want to put it back outside. So like, I gotta know where it is at all times. Plus, I've been getting bit by mosquitoes, so I know that there's some sort of hole in my defenses here in the house, and it's a problem, Andy. It's a problem, much like balancing these orbs in Riftstrider.
Great
when
segue.
Your segues are on drugs this week.
Let me tell you, it's pretty cool because as you're getting through each of the levels, you're unlocking choices for cards that you want to use going forward, adding to your arsenal, basically. But most of the cards augment in orbs. So like the ones that I think are mostly open to us are your shield and your fire element deck. So like they say like, oh, this works with fire orbs. Okay, cool. So now I know that they're going to chain with the fire orbs, but like some of them are like missiles or damage multipliers and stuff like that. What others types of orbs are you playing around with in the background? Like, are you basically doing all different elements, or are you just tell me where your creativity is on that?
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. So there's definitely the idea to have multiple types of elements, and maybe that would be like unlocked like post demo. So
Sure.
yeah, currently there's fire and metal are the two main elements, and there's one stage where you can unlock lightning orb that can work with either one of those elements. So that's definitely an avenue, maybe like a lightning elements. The other path I'm going down is having multiple protagonists that could have like different play styles. So this current one is kind of the traditional Slay the Spire, like attack and defense. You're sort of balancing those two things, playing with other concepts of like maybe a character that doesn't like do any defense, but it's like pure attack, but has some other way of kind of balancing healing or like taking the damage and using that, turning that around as attack. Or thinking about another character that looks at the orbs as kind of like raw material to build up other like devices or things like that. So just trying to like think outside the box, or outside the grid of orbs in terms of like how you can like take this and turn it into multiple different kinds of play styles.
What does the progression look like after each run? What are you taking with you when you finish? I guess they're called rifts, right? It's like what a run looks like, or a level. Like, what does the starting point look like after you've finished a run and you're going from scratch again?
Yeah, so currently you can unlock one of two things, which is those incantations where it's like layering patterns on top in your next run. So it's sort of like adding additional mechanisms or like play styles to the next run. But in the future, it'd be like unlocking additional characters or unlocking
Okay.
really going after that spider.
Wait. All right, it's time. Listen, man, this thing's huge.
This
Okay?
man was telling his
No,
whole
I-
ass story.
I-
He's like, I'm on the hunt. I'm determined.
I hate spiders too. So yeah, get that
This
out of the way.
guy's
It's
he's
distracting
got
me.
his little pink vacuum with like a flux capacitor built into. What is that meter on there? 37.
That's
37.
the battery power. All right, we have sucked up the spider, but now I need to get this thing outside. Hopefully, it's not dead because we do love spiders. So, Andy, I'm gonna hand over the show to you for a few moments.
He was literally answering a question.
This thing was huge, bro. It was huge. Okay, all right.
I hate it here. Andrew, before you were cut off by that schmuck, what were you saying?
Yeah, so
This
you know,
is
it's,
real.
it's definitely like there's definitely some concept of meta progression, which I know is kind of has, you know, controversy in the roguelite genre. Some people are purists and want every run to sort of start from the same
Really?
baseline.
Is that a thing?
That's a thing.
Oh
Personally,
wow.
I like unlocking stuff. I like to kind of like, you know, have a reason to go back and play and, you know, try new things. So that's kind of what's motivating me, or sort of like motivating the like between runs progression. So that'll definitely be more of like a skill tree where you can kind of unlock and build up additional things, unlock additional orbs, things like that.
Yeah, I don't think I'd enjoy the roguelike genre as much if there was no real progression system kind of baked into the whole thing, because you know they're difficult-ish by design. You're meant to fail to some degree and to learn
Right.
from that failure, but to take nothing away from ours and then to fail and start from scratch seems like kind of counterintuitive. Like Returnal, one of my all-time favorite like roguelike games. Um, I don't think I'd enjoy it if there was no way to like earn abilities and keep them for the subsequent runs to make it not necessarily easier, but less frustrating. And you're able to master the game with the little bits and pieces you acquire along the way and you pick up
Yeah.
for a fresh run. So yeah, I get it. Like I think that's a weird stance. I know that was a thing. Why
Yeah.
would you want it? That's terrible.
I mean, I think it maybe comes from people that don't like that aspect of, you know, the game is too hard initially, that you're just like destined to fail until you go and like unlock other stuff. But yeah, personally, I don't know. There's some like brain dopamine reward that I just like. I like unlocking stuff.
Yeah,
So
I'm the
that's
same way. I like seeing little like ticking boxes and like, oh, look at these goodies I got. Like I can't wait to use that like next time around.
yeah.
What's been what's been your biggest like aha moment from the demo? I'm sure there's things that you have been thinking about like before you put it out there. Like, okay, I'm working on X, Y, and Z. Like
Mhm.
I know that criticism or that point to work on. But
Yeah.
what's been, oh, that's a good point that you've seen since putting the demo out on Steam?
Yeah. So actually, I just got some really good feedback recently that made me kind of rethink a lot of the way I've been presenting the UI, and that, you know, some people don't realize there's really a deck behind it.
Mm-hmm.
And they're sort of like wondering like where are these orbs coming from, and like, you know, what, like, are they just infinite, or like do I have a limit? So I just like started playing around with this UI that shows like actually shows the percentage of chance of drawing an obstacle.
Mm-hmm.
And as that gets affected by other like passive effects or things like that, it changes. So I think that was a good sort of mental shift as like, you know, I have this mechanic in my mind where it like makes perfect sense to me, but unless that mechanic is like displayed in some UI somewhere where someone can hover over a tooltip and see, oh, I have a 20% chance of drawing an obstacle instead of something from my deck. Um, you know, I feel like that was a big like piece of feedback where I was like, oh yeah, I need to have some UI to show that.
How does that impact you on the dev side? Is it like when a good idea kind of crops up, do you feel like I gotta devote like how does that change your schedule with your dev time and getting like those little points addressed and then a big picture idea pops up that could prolong development? How does all that sort of pan out for you?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like my dev time is rather limited. You know, it's like
Mhm.
this is sort of nights and weekends, and
Mhm.
I've got a 2.5-year-old son, so it's like, you know, I may get like 1 hour or something like that a day, and it's like it has to be a really focused hour. So um, you know, definitely like keeping a backlog of stuff, and you know, thinking about something throughout the day. I was like, okay, I want to, you know, during my 1 hour today or whatever, I'm gonna crank through this piece. And um, so just trying to like incorporate some of that feedback and then build it into like, okay, here's sort of the higher priority things I need to work
Mhm.
on.
Does your son play? I'm curious. Have you showed him the game?
I've showed him the game, and he's like, you know, pretty interested in it. And I feel like that's sort of good feedback, right? Like if some like a game can like uh capture the attention of a 2.5-year-old, it's like, oh, okay, that's
Mm.
there's like some flashing lights and stuff that's, you know, something inherently interesting here.
And there's probably something to the simplicity of what you're showing on the screen too, right? Like it is very easy to understand what you're supposed to do from a mechanic standpoint, but there's also all those layers there that make things
Mhm.
interesting, difficult, and you know, unpredictable, right?
Yeah. Well, and one thing I was just mentioning to Andy while you were out is, you know, getting feedback around like showing some of those mechanics, because right now they're kind of implicit, right? It's like, you know, there's this deck behind the scenes and
Mhm.
orbs are coming out of it, but sometimes you're going to get an obstacle. And um, you know, like for me, it's very intuitive, but a lot of people I've showed it to, like they didn't realize it was a deck or things like that.
Yeah.
Um, so I've started to like incorporate some of that feedback into some like proof of concept of some UI I've been working on to actually show some of those mechanics. So it's not just like
Mhm.
hidden, and you actually can like see that.
Yeah, I think in its current iteration, it feels less like a deck and more like a Rolodex of augmentations to the board.
Mhm.
Um, where you know you don't have the agency is in what you're going to add to the board as opposed to what what your deck is going to look like really, because you don't see the whole thing, right? Like you don't
Right.
really get a picture of everything that you've collected. You just kind of have to remember, okay, I'm going with damage on this run, so like I'm going for anything that is damage oriented, and those are all going to speak to each other. But then you do come to there are some not so savory cards that you can get that could be a little detrimental to you, so you're also like balancing that. um
Mhm.
do you are you playing around with, so you said you're playing around with like UI and things like that. Are you playing around with actually showing us in real time what cards are active, what cards are in our hand or like in part of our deck? Are you like playing around with that idea?
Yeah, so that's in there now. So that's like you can click and see your deck and see what's still in your deck and what's
Mm.
on the board. But the thing I'm been like working on surfacing is the obstacle percentage. So actually
Oh,
showing,
okay.
you know,
Yeah.
that you have a 20% by default chance to draw an obstacle rather than
Gotcha.
an
Okay.
orb. And then like as you get passive effects or things that like, or you know, debuffs or things like that that make you more likely to draw obstacles, that gets shown. So there's sort of like a place for that mechanic to live in the UI.
Mm. I'm wondering why I don't have a recollection of being able to look at the cards. Where is that located?
So it's in
Like,
the bottom right and the top next to
oh,
the
right, right,
map.
right. Yes. I haven't messed with it, but yeah, okay, I see it now. I'm looking at the
Yeah,
video now. Okay.
You know what?
but
You
that's
know what?
something
Go ahead, Andrew.
that's something where I took like a little bit of inspiration from Bellatra, where I haven't added it to the UI yet, but just in terms of like, I don't something about Bellatra is like really juicy and satisfying, and sort of having some like um you know, animation or something of like orbs being drawn out of your deck
Yes.
would
Yeah.
really drive that point home.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, seeing the interaction between card and orb, I think is paramount to what you're trying to do.
Mhm.
Where you're making them two synergistic systems that or pieces of art that are really talking to each other. It's not as simple as just playing a card. These cards are changing the board.
Right.
And but you still have to play the board.
Mhm.
So I think those, yeah, I think that would definitely be something that could be helpful. Like you see the enemies do it, right? like when they
Right.
freeze a gem or an orb, or they change how the board looks. They can do that on their end, and you can see it very viscerally. I think that would be very helpful to the player for sure.
Yeah. One other kind of interesting piece of feedback that I got early on that sort of drove a mechanic change was originally I'd taken the Slay the Spire template and I had relics where you sort of pick those up and they kind of drastically change how you play. But one of my friends recommended the sort of concept of the passive effect, right? So as long as an orb is in your grid, you have that effect, and as soon as you play it, you lose that effect. And that ended up kind of taking the place of the sort of classic Slay the Spire relic mechanic.
Yeah, that's interesting, because it would you'd be apprehensive about chaining a big attack if it goes through that passive that you want to keep. Yeah, that's very interesting. Yeah, for sure. Andreas?
Well, I was gonna say, why aren't they called orbsticles?
That's very Peglin of you.
Yeah.
What are some of the
Orbsticles.
more orbsticles? Yeah, you
I
can
like
keep
that.
That's free.
Right.
What are some of the more nuttier orbs you can come across in this game? What are some of your favorites that you've sort of pieced together?
I mean, I had fun doing the sort of effects of the missile orb where it kind of like does a little loop-de-loop and explodes.
Dance.
That is pretty
Yeah,
neat. Yeah,
that one was fun. The grenade orb, I feel like Che kind of came up with the look of it, and I was like, oh, that looks like a grenade. I want to lob it. So I had fun kind of doing the lob and explode. So definitely want to kind of keep playing around with the orbs and their effects, because I know that's sort of, there's just something satisfying about changing up the attack. So it's not just some dude chucking fireballs for the entire game. It's like, here's sort of, other interesting animations.
Do you come up with the concepts for or the descriptors of the monsters, and then I'm sorry, what was your artist's name?
Che.
Che?
Yeah.
Does Che come up with those designs and say, hey, look what I drew, and then you're like, oh, I'll come up with the thing that it does? Or is it the other way around?
It's definitely a back and forth collaboration. I'll be I want an enemy that looks kind of cute at first, but then he's actually scary or something. And that's sort of where the little Goomba goblin buddy monster thing came from.
Yeah.
Or yes, but sometimes I'll be like, oh, I want an ice, I'm thinking about this ice mechanic where I want to freeze an orb on the grid, and then he came up with the sort of ice toad, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah, the pink arms and that cool looking frosty skin.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Or I was sort of I want a ghost, but I want it to be kind of like a machine, like a ghost in the machine, right? Kind of like a cyborg ghost. And so we kind of went back and forth on that a little bit.
Speaking my language, Andrew.
Andy does like ghosts. It is well documented.
Said the magic words.
And machines. He likes them both. I don't know about them together. I don't know if he's ever experimented deeply with ghosts and machines. In a shell, yes. Ghosts in a shell, perhaps, but interesting.
Well, that's the whole point.
I know, Andy. I know, Andy. I know. I knew where you were coming from and where you were going, my friend.
You were right there.
Yeah. I have good news.
Good news, you said.
I think the spider's gone. Here's the
problem.
I
was dying for an update on this goddamn spider.
Here's the problem. I don't know, I have no evidence of its demise. Because when I brought it outside, it was pitch black outside, and I couldn't see what was evacuating the vacuum. But the vacuum is empty. So,
I mean, if it survives the turbulence in there, then
I mean, they're resilient little fuckers, aren't they? Spiders, they're all right.
Yeah.
Aren't they?
Yeah, right.
It's like a little ball with string attached to it. It's like
all right. Well, listen, if it survived, it has stories to tell of the giant flesh thing with his machine sucking him up, and he traveled what is equivalent to him like 8 miles to the other side of the yard, and his whole life is different now, and he lives in a garbage can. So there you go. Stories to tell, Andy.
It's so fascinating. Andrew, what's the I want to get back to
maybe that could be an orb, a vacuum orb. You know, something that sucks the other orbs into it and changes their color or whatever. You know what I mean?
I think the Rift Spider should be a boss. That's where I'm at right now.
We call it the Room Spider. So. Just it'll specifically be that spider that was sitting over there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
there's a lot of spider talk
in between some blinds.
Yeah,
should be like an arachnophobia warning, like a trigger warning on this episode.
We might need it. We might need it. Yeah, we might need it. That is for sure. I didn't think of that.
What's the roadmap looking for you, Andrew? The demo's out. You're getting feedback. This is all in your free time. What's the goal here to get this thing like kicked out the door?
We're looking at an early access situation. Yeah. What are we thinking about?
Yeah, I mean, I think early access is probably the path that I'll take eventually. Definitely. It's kind of hard to say how, like, when I'd be able to get there. Current goal is like get the demo as polished as possible. There's still like a decent amount that I want to rework with it. And then just kind of keep collecting feedback and iterating on that, and see like when there's enough of a player base, then launch into early access.
Oh yeah.
And hopefully Steve won't be as terrible by the time.
I'm gonna be better tonight. It's gonna like, tonight is when I'm gonna get significantly better at this video game.
There's some strong words, buddy.
I will beat the demo. It will be conquered. It will happen. You know what else will happen, Andy? You know what else will happen, Andy? That's the word I was looking for.
God.
Phrasing is hard, man.
Words are difficult.
Make hard. It's time for rapid fire, Andy.
Rapid fire.
It is. Andrew, you've gotten all the soft questions, but now we're gonna get you the hard-hitting questions where we want your off-the-cuff answers. So we're gonna get to know you. Get it? Understand it? All right. I don't want no nonsense from you. Okay.
All right.
First question. Fucking magnets. How do they work?
Magic.
That's an answer.
That is an answer.
Take that answer.
It's also the truth. Nobody knows how that works.
Andrew, I want you to think of the most horrible thing in the world. Would you rather be that or the spider in Steven's bedroom?
Well, the thing I was thinking about was the spider in Steven's vacuum. So,
yeah.
So yeah, I'd rather.
I like that.
I'd rather be the spider in Steven's bedroom than the spider in Steven's vacuum.
Yeah,
there it is.
Yeah. No, I get it. Yeah.
There it is.
Is cereal a soup?
Yes.
Good answer. Andrew, I am striding these rifts, going along, collecting orbs, doing my thing, vanquishing evil, and I pick up the Andrew orb. What does the Andrew orb do? Future content for your games too, so
yeah,
take notes.
Probably causes you to be totally distracted and close the game and do something entirely different.
Or it just crashes.
It auto alt tabs out of the game into like Minesweeper or some shit like that.
It opens ski free. Oh man, that was a deep cut, Andy. I didn't think.
Holy shit! That got me.
Watch out for the Yeti.
Free. Holy shit!
Yeah, man.
What year is it? It's going to new grounds. Yeah. Oh my god, Steven, thank
Andrew,
you for that.
Do you remember Ski Free? Do you know of this game?
I don't remember.
The stick figure skiing game that you would just avoid the trees and then the Yeti
chasing you like.
Yeah,
man,
got a vision of that.
Yeah. That was back in the day. That was way back in the day. Let's see. If you could take a power from, or like a theme from Slay the Spire and make it a deck in your game, Riftstrider, which power would you like to take?
a good question. I like I think the silent is the second one that you basically string up a ton of like you go from sort of playing as it's been a while since I played now, but the one like the basic default one where you sort of doing like big attacks and you switch to kind of doing smaller attacks and poison and things like that. So I feel like that could be a interesting
damage over time type stuff.
Ooh.
Like lasting effects and
You could use that, Steve.
I could use anything that helps me win because
exactly. Andrew, if a song would play anytime you entered a room, which song would that be?
Maybe Blockbuster Part 1 by Run the Jewels. I don't know.
I'm not familiar with this song.
Yeah, what song is that?
How's it go? Sing it right now, live.
If you ever watched the HBO series Silicon Valley, like Mike Judge, that was very like almost like a little too real to my life in tech. But the end credits would always have this like most like outrageous song, so it's just like very hardcore rap. It's like very incongruous with the like nerdy subject matter of the show.
I like it. Huh, Mike Judge, huh?
That was a good show.
Still going strong. King of the Hill, supposedly, right? Isn't that happening?
Is that still going on?
Supposedly
they're rebooting it.
Yeah, they're rebooting it, and like Bobby's
holy shit,
like
I had no idea.
Years old now, and like
we're old, dude.
He's got kids now.
Holy shit!
I've seen some of the new Beavis and Butthead stuff that's been coming out, and I'm dying laughing. Like it's somehow better than I remember it being. As like the old episodes are pretty bad. Like if you watch them now, I mean, it was all about music, but well, kind of. But like some of the new stuff is
for your bunghole.
So Andrew, here's a question for you. Between Andy and I, who's Beavis and who's Butthead?
I don't know. I'd say I'm just gonna pick randomly. I'd say Andy's Beavis and Steven's Butthead.
You can't go wrong. And the answer would have been fine.
You are 100% incorrect, though.
Okay.
Like, Andy is by far the abusive one, and I'm by far the hyperactive one. Like, it is. He would kick me in the nuts any chance he has.
I love that for me.
Settle down, Beavis. yeah. But it's okay. Listen,
I gotta do more of that. I gotta see
kicking me in the nuts.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, you could do that.
Remember that time you like stopped the podcast to go kill a spider?
Bro, like, what did you want me to do? This thing could have
quality content
at any moment. You know, it could have eaten me. Could have. I mean, my kids are allergic. Well, one of them is highly allergic to bug bites.
It could have eaten you.
Yeah.
Is a thing you just said.
Through my butthole. Have you seen Arachnophobia? I have. Also another movie being rebooted, apparently.
I saw Sting recently. It's another like
the wrestler?
No. It's the new Spider movie.
Right. I did see that. Yes, I did see
that. They're like the girls like feeding the spider people.
Yeah, that's weird.
It's like Lake Placid, but with a spider.
It's just Little Shop of Horrors, but a spider.
Yeah, it's all the same stuff.
I mean, think about it.
Yeah,
it's the same shit.
Andrew, let's say you're given a chance. We're still doing the show, Steven.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
The show didn't end. We're still
the show's still going. The show must go on.
Let's say you're given a chance to work on a new installment or revive a long dormant video game franchise or IP.
Okay.
Which one are you going for? Blank check, your vision, your game. What are you doing?
Okay, so bouncing off the kind of like new grounds theme, there's one Flash game that I really got into at one point in my life called Motherload, where you're sort of like digging through the surface of a planet, collecting like different resources.
Like the deepest of cuts episode right now.
I remember that.
So, and like the deeper you go, like the more you're like you get like diamonds or things like that.
Yeah, it was Spelunky, but
it was
Flash.
Right.
Oh yeah.
And there's like something about that I really liked, where it was sort of you're kind of coming back up to the surface, upgrading and like going deeper each time.
Yeah.
And I feel like, yeah, like Splunky does it pretty well. But yeah, I feel like if I took something like that, that'd be a fun thing to work
Oh,
on.
that's like
It's like
Dome
Dome
Keeper
Keeper.
vibes.
Yeah, Dome.
That's
Yeah. Maybe that's where
That's
that came from. We got to get Dome
holy
Keeper up in here.
shit. That is, I wouldn't have guessed that. I mean,
That was, yeah, I wouldn't have gone there.
yet the Yeti was one thing, but this is just a whole other thing altogether.
Every time Andy asks that question, I'm reminded that Andy's answer is Star Tropics.
Yeah,
Mhm.
they just bummed me out. Way to bring me down at the very end of the show that there's no Star Tropics happening on the horizon between now and my death.
Pineapple on pizza, yes or no?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, man.
When you're getting, we haven't asked this in a long time, Steven. When you're getting dressed in the morning,
Oh yeah,
going about your day, you know, you get your shirt on, you get your shorts on, or your pants on,
or not, you know, whatever.
Or not. Yeah. You got your socks.
It's your life. I'm not
next
gonna
to
tell
you
how to do it.
And your shoes. Do you put them on sock, shoe, or sock, shoe?
I feel like those happen at different stages in my day. So I'll get dressed and put socks on, and then have a whole morning, and then I'm walking out the door to come over to my office. So then it's shoes.
Interesting.
Oh, I have a question. Sock related question. Do you sleep with socks on?
No.
Okay.
I'm not a psychopath.
I can't.
I am.
I can't imagine just having socks on during the day before I'm like about to leave the house. That seems weird to me.
Well, I can't imagine having my shoes like elsewhere in my house. Like those stay by the door because they have like dog poop and whatever's on the sidewalk on them. So it's like shoes are by the door, socks are up in the bedroom.
Stepping in like just dog feces as you're walking around the day. Those stay there. There's shit on them by the door.
If you could be someone's pet, what animal would you want to be?
That's a weird one.
Yeah, that is getting kind of weird.
I like it though.
I mean, I have a cat. I feel like he lives a pretty great life. Yeah. I'm jealous of him. Yeah, so I'd probably do that.
You have one cat?
I have one cat, yeah.
That's difficult. Congratulations on only getting suckered into having one.
Yeah,
I mean,
he's old now, 12 years old, but he's like the most like cantankerous, like angry cat that only like the two of us. And then we had our son, and suddenly he was like, oh yeah, you can like smack me around and like pull my tail, you're fine. So
he gets it. Yeah
he gets it.
My oldest cat is also 12, I think 12 or 13, and she does not take their shit at all.
Oh yeah,
like she's the biggest love bug for me and my wife, but like the kids, she's just like, all right, hey, stop talking so loud near me, okay, like knock it off. But then now we have 4, and the 2 kittens, the 2 youngest cats are like their cat, and they like let them do whatever they want to them. They're just like, oh, stop putting me down.
When your pets have pets, something's not right in that house. What are you?
They're children. They're my children. They're not my pets, Andy.
Yeah.
You weirdo.
That's funny. Like, my fiance is always like, should we get a dog for the dog? And I'm like, what? No, the dog doesn't need like it's a pet. Like, we'll get a second dog because you want to get a second dog.
Get Cujo a hermit crab.
Not to give like he'll eat it and choke on it, and then it's a whole thing. Though he does think that the mouse cursor is like a living, breathing organism.
Oh, absolutely.
He does chase around the screen.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
He whines because he can't get it.
When I was growing up, we had fish, and our cat loved just sitting down and watching the fish all day. Like never tried to get them, but would just sit there in front of it and just watch them swim back and forth all day. Maybe you get Cujo a fish.
Yeah. Speaking of things that may have happened in your childhood while you were younger, Andrew, what is the dumbest way you've ever injured yourself?
Oh man. I feel like maybe the dumbest thing was trying to go off a jump on a snowboard and falling back and hitting my head and sort of coming to somewhere else on the ski slope and not really remembering how I got there.
I
Just like getting a little too aggressive with the jumps.
that almost the exact same thing happened to me. Yeah, I was on the bunny slope and I caught an edge and went forward, and then there was a flash of light, and the next thing I know, I am caught up in a orange net at the bottom of the bunny hill with children screaming and parents screaming. I took out a bunch of kids on the way down. So many kids. Good times. All right, I'm gonna ask a final question, then Andy, you'll take us home here.
No.
Let me think.
I don't like it when it ends.
Are you a window seat or an aisle seat guy?
Also a good question. I feel like I alternate. I don't like being on the aisle seat because then you sort of, I mean, I do like it, but then you get people kind of like walking up, like touching their butts to you. So part of me likes just kind of being in the window seat, like having my little like world and not having to interface with people walking up and down the aisle.
I was thinking before I asked the last question, what would it cost to buy the rights to Ski Free?
That's a good question.
That could be a thing we do, Steven. Just do like an HD re-release of Ski Free. Andrew, we're coming to a close, and it's always heartbreaking.
This chapter of
when
our
we say
lives.
goodbye to people that we've,
remember me.
And you're thinking to yourself, can I get the last hour of my life back? We're gonna open with the song and also end with the song. Great stuff, Steven. So taking all that into account, we're gonna ask you the last question of the hour. I don't even care how you answer at this point.
I do. I have a lot invested in the question.
You do. He really does. So keep that in mind if you want to fuck with him when you think of your answer. And the last question of the hour, Andrew, is Andy or Steven?
I feel like I got more time talking to Andy because Steven had to go dispose of the spider. So I appreciated that time with you, Andy. But it's I don't know. That's a tough call.
Yeah. No, I get it. Listen, priorities, I don't want to get eaten. And especially not while recording. Like,
had you been eaten, then it wouldn't be a problem for Andrew. So that's double why he chose me, because you put him in a position where you had to pick one of us.
Yeah, true.
You should have been eaten. So
that's true.
What you did there, it's all your fault.
It is my fault. You know what else is not my fault, Andy?
Doing a great show.
Yeah. I did it. We did a good show. And if you want to support this good show, you can so easily by going to patreon.com/IndieRift. Just like our Patreon producer, Colton, the apprentice Nestler, who's almost so close to finishing his apprenticeship. It's almost there, folks. Wish him luck. And also congratulations on the new house. It's gorgeous and I'm jealous of you. And I hope everybody's happy and healthy over there in your life. But yes, you could be a part of our Indie Rift family by going to Patreon. You get some early access stuff. You could also join our Discord by joining there as well. And if you want to follow us on social media, we're at Indie Rift everywhere. You could also just go to IndieRift.com and find out all of us over there now. And it's a great time. Andrew, where could everybody find you and Riftstrider?
So best place to find me is on Steam. If you search for Riftstrider, you can check out the demo, and then there's a link to the Discord where you're welcome to come drop feedback, and of course wishlist the game if you're interested in it. That helps. Wish lists are paramount for indie developers releasing on Steam. So please, folks, if you don't do anything in your life, please wishlist your favorite games. It helps developers out tremendously. Thank you, Andrew. It's been a pleasure hanging out with you.
We wish you luck with everything, and look forward to the next update for the demo. We're looking very forward to that. And maybe we'll see you on the trade floors, you know, on the you know, maybe PAX, you know what I mean? Maybe we'll see you doing something over there. I don't know.
Yeah,
we'll see. We'll see.
I'll look out for you guys, but thank you. I appreciate having me on. And
yeah, it was an absolute blast. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Andy. Thank you, viewers and listeners. And as always, please be excellent to each other.